A young woman named Amina is believed to have been chosen by the spirit of her ancestors. The elders speak of an ancient and a dangerous power that dwell in the forest, where it is said that no man's physical strength or courage can satisfy the desire of Amina, whose spiritual husband has the power of a mighty spirit. But in her quest for peace, Amina finds a way to reconcile her destiny and the spirit that guides her, confronting both the danger and the truth no one has dared to discover. Will the villagers and Amina herself survive the test that lies ahead, or would the spirit claim their reward? In a small village nestled on the edge of a river and a mysterious forest, there stood a towering bamboo tree. It is thick, its ancient branch stretching higher into the sky like its hands reaching the heaven, which the villagers believe this tree is to be the hearer of the earth, the gateway to the spirit world. They spoke of an immense power and many mysteries it had, but only selected few know the true story of the stories told around it. Amina was one of those few. As a young girl, she had always felt a strange connection to the forest and the bamboo trees. While other children play and laugh in the field, Amina often sat under the great tree, listening to the whispering of the wind, which seemed to speak directly to her. Her grandmom, a wise and respected elder, would tell her the stories of how the spirit of their ancestors reside in the tree, protecting the village from harm. But Amina had always wondered if there was more to those stories than she had been told. As Amina grew older, the connection between Amina and the bamboo tree deepens. She began to dream of a man, tall, strong, with a presence so powerful. This man was always showing off in her dreams. Her face never fully revealed, but his voice called to her in her dreams as it is beckoning her towards something great and terrible. One night, after a particular vivid dream, Amina woke up. The room was cold and the weather was so heavy. She couldn't hear the fainting whispering like the voice was carrying by the wind, calling her name. As she stood up from the bed, her heart pounded and she listened carefully. The voice came again. Dearly time. Amina, come to the bamboo tree. Amina, come to the bamboo tree. She could no longer ignore the pull. She felt within her. Without waking anyone, she stepped quietly out of her house, making her way through the village towards the great tree. The moonlight battered and as if is in response. The wind picked up again, wrestling and leaving the sound and chilling warmth cold within her body. As a figure emerged from the shadow, a woman, old and bent, with eyes that glow faintly in the dark. She wore a simple cloth, but there was something about this presence that made her seem both ancient and timeless. Amina, the old woman said, her voice like a rustling of the dry leaf, you have been chosen. Amina stepped back, startled. Chose for what? The old woman smiled, revealing her teeth that were sharper than Amina had expected. You are not like other people. You are not like others, child. Your heart is bound to the spirit world. The spirit have watched over you since the day you were born. But I don't understand, Amina whispered, feeling a lump. What do you mean? What is happening to me? The woman's smile faded and her gaze grew serious. There is a powerful spirit that watches over you, Amina. He is your spiritual husband. No man of flesh and blood can satisfy your heart or sexual desire. Only the spirit of the great bamboo has the strength to do it for you. You must accept your fate, for your bond is greater than any earthly love. Amina took a step back, confused and afraid. The spirit husband, a spiritual husband? But I do not want to be alone. I want to marry, have children, live like others. The woman's eyes softened and she placed a hand on Amina's shoulder. Your path is not one of ordinary love. Your spiritual husband is not a man of this world. He is the force that governs life and death, the protector of your people. Only he can lead you to your purpose and your true purpose. Amina's heart risen. She did not know what to do or to believe. The spiritual husband, she had heard the stories, but never had the imagination that could be applied to her. Her mind was in a confusion, but deep within her, she felt something like an ancient power, like a call from the very core of the earth itself. As if reading her thoughts, the old woman spoke again. The spirit will not wait forever, Amina. You must make your choice. Come, I will show you the way. With those words, the old woman turned and began to walk towards the forest. Her steps slow but deliberate. Amina hesitated, her feet rooted on the ground. She felt torn between the life and the death she had always known and the unknown path that led her ahead. After a long moment, Amina followed. The journey into the forest was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The trees seemed to whisper to her name, and the air grew thicker with the scent of the damp air and the ancient leaf. The old woman led her into the deepest forest, where the sunlight barely pierced through. It was here, in the heart of the wilderness, that Amina felt the presence of something vast and unknown. They came to a clearing, and in that center stood a massive stone altar, carved in moist and ancient symbol. The old woman stepped before it, turning to face Amina. This is where the bond between you and your spiritual husband will be sealed, she said. Please, place your hand upon the altar, and the spirit will show you the truth. Amina stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. She reached out. The old woman ordered her, place your hands upon the cold stone. As soon as her palm touches the surface, a surge of energy shot through her body, and she gasped. Her vision got blurry. In the hazard of light, a shadow, she saw him, her spiritual husband, the man from her dreams. The man she saw in her dreams. He's tall, taller than any man she had ever known. His body shone in light. His eyes grew with an overwhelming intensity, and his voice echoed in her mind. Amina, he said, his voice deepened and response. You have always been mine. I have watched over you from the moment of your birth. The time has come for you to emerge, for you to embrace me, and for you to be my true love. Tears wailed in Amina's eyes as she struggled to understand. But I do not know you, she whispered. How can I love you? You are not like others. The spirit gazed softened, and for the first time, he saw his face clearly. It was a face that seems both familiar and foreign, a face that could belong to any man, yet no man. His smile was warm, full of understanding. You have known me all your life, Amina, he said. I am the spirit that flowed through your blood, your protector, your ancestors. No earthly love can satisfy you, For your heart is bound to mine. You are a bridge between the spirit world and the land of the living. The choice has always been yours. Amina's heart floated, and for the first time in her life, she felt the weight of her destiny. She sounded and she stood now. She understood now. Her path was not to follow the tradition of her people in the way they expected. She was chosen for something far greater and something that tarnished the human understanding. But still, she hesitated. What happened if I choose you? She asked. Her voice barely whispered. The spirit smiled again and sad, knowing smile. You will walk a path few can understand. Amina, you will be bound to the spirit forever. You will never find peace in the arms of a man. For no man can satisfy your desire, but you will also possess power beyond imagining. The power to protect your people and guide them. Amina looked back at the village, imagining the life she might have there. She had known the love of her family and the joy of staying with her people. Could she truly leave that all behind? But in her chest, she knew the answer. I choose you, she said, her voice strong. At that moment, the clearing erupted in a high light. The air cracked with energy, and the bamboo tree root seemed to stir breath and the earth. Amina felt her body filled with power, an ancient force that surged through her veins. She was no longer just a girl from a village. She was a woman chosen by the Spirit, born to a greater force and to govern life and death. As the light began to fade, the Spirit spoke once more. You are ready, Amina. Go and fulfill your destiny. The moment Amina uttered the word, I choose you, the world around her seems to shift. The clearing in the forest grew brighter as the trees whispered in approval. Their leaves rested as if it's alive. A surge of warmth spread from the fingerprint upon her arms, through her chest, and in her heart. It was a sensation like no other, powerful and overwhelming, as though she was becoming one with the earth herself. The spirit before her, once an energetic figure surrounded by the mist, now stood solid and real. His presence was immense, both terrifying and comforting. His tall frame radiated strength, his body growing, his eyes deepened, in full of wisdom, looked into her eyes. You are now bound to the bamboo, the spirit spoken. His voice resurrected with the power of the earth itself. Your journey will not be easy, Amina. The spirit have chosen you, but your heart must be strong. The path you walk is one that few have walked before. Amina felt both fear and awe. She had chosen this path, but now the weight of her decision presses upon her. She was no longer just a girl from the village. She was the chosen one, bound to a spirit that was both ancient and eternal. The spirit extended his hands towards her. Come, come, child. The village awaits your return. They will not understand, but you must guide them. Amina hesitated for a moment, glanced around at the ancient forest that surrounded her. Everything now seemed part of her. She was connected to something far greater than she had ever known, a power that flowed through her veins like the blood of her ancestors. With a deep breath, She took the spirit hand, and together they walked towards the village. The walk back to the village was quiet. The weight of her new reality sitting on her shoulder. The village, usually alive with the chat of people, seemed easily still as Amina and the spirit emerged from the forest edge. The spirit, the villagers who had been going about their days, stopped in their tracks, eyes wide, and their murmurs tripped through the crowd. Amina could not recognize them. Amina see fears in their eyes as they never seen anything like that before. Amina's father, a tall, strong man with a kind face, stepped forward. His face searched Amina's face for a sign of recognition, for any clue as to know what has happened to her during the time she was in the forest. When he saw the change in her eyes, his face grew troubled. Amina, he called softly, his voice full of concern. What has happened to you? What have you done? Amina stood tall, her heart filled with both sorrow and resolve. She could see the confusion and fear in her father's eyes, the worry for the safety, but she knew there was no turning back. She had made her choice, and the path ahead was no turning back. She had made her choice, and the path ahead of her was her to walk alone, guided by the spirit that had become her eternal compassion. I had accepted my true calling, she said to her father. Her voice steadied, but filled with weight of the decision. I am bound to the bamboo tree, and the spirit that watches over it. No man of flesh and blood can be my husband, only the spirit of the bamboo tree that will walk beside me. The villagers looked at each other, whispering growing louder. Some were terrified, others skeptical, but all were uncertain. Amina's father, despite his concern, placed a hand on her shoulder. My daughter, you have always been special, but this, the voice dried off, unsure how to express his belief. Amina looked up at the sky, where the sun was beginning to set, casting long shadow across the village. She could feel the spirit present beside her, a quiet force that seems to whisper the ancient truth in her ear. She was no longer just Amina, the girl who played by the river or helped her mother with the harvesting things in the farm. She had become someone more stronger and more powerful in the village. You must understand, Father, Amina continued, her voice growing firmer. I was chosen to protect the village, to guide it. The spirit has called me, and I can no longer ignore them. The bamboo power will protect us all. The villagers fell silent. Some were still skeptical, but others seemed to recognize the truth in. They had always respected the power of the bamboo tree, but to see one of their own so deeply connected to the spirit, so connected deeply with the spirit world, was something they could hardly comprehend. As her father stepped back, his face echoed with both pride and fear. If this is your path, Amina, he said, his voice softened, then you must walk it with strength. We will stand by you. True, we may not fully understand. Amina nodded, grateful for her father and to his support, even though she knew the road ahead would be long and soft. But challenges as it may be, he thanked her father as she proceeded. Amina struggled to balance her new identity with her life in the village. She was still the same girl. Her heart still bear the love for her people, but now she could feel the weight of the spirit watching over her. The village elder, though respectful of the spirit, were wary of Amina's national identity and her newfounded power. They gathered in secret meeting, discussing what has happened, and what it meant for the future. Some of them, particularly the elder member of the council, whispered that Amina connection to the spirit was a sign of a great danger. They spoke of ancient prophecy, of a dark force that had once tried to destroy the bamboo tree, and for the evil that could befall on them if they could not do something good. Amina was unaltered. She spent days in meditation, seeking guidance from the bamboo tree and the spirit that watches over her. She had come to understand that her spiritual husband was not just a protector, but a force of nature itself, wide and undiluted, and all-powerful. He had chosen her, and in doing so, she had given her a responsibility that she could not ignore. As time passes, the villagers begin to change. The crop flourished as if it's a blessing by a very hand of the spirit. The people's life improved, and peace settled over the land. But there was always a scent of unseen breath and a surface of whispering in the wind that spoke of darkness and in the secret forces and in the shadow. One night, as Amina sat behind a bamboo tree, deep in her thought, she heard the voice of her spiritual husband once more. This time, his voice was very urgent, filled with a warning of a sorrow. Amina, he said, his voice shaking the earth and the breath of her heart. The darkness is coming, a great evil sting in the air, and a forces that will seek to destroy the balance between the spirit world and the physical realm. You must be prepared. I warn you, you must be prepared. You must get ready, because what is ahead is more beyond you. I told you, you must be prepared. Amina had raised as he stood, her eyes searching for the horizon. The village, once peaceful, now seemed violable and violent. She could feel the spirit present, growing stronger, urging her to act. I am ready, Amina said. Her voice was full of determination. I will protect this village no matter the cost. The spirit voice softened, filled with both pride and sorrow. Your strength will be tested, Amina. The path ahead is frosting and is frightening with the danger. But remember, you will never go alone. You are never alone. The spirit will be with you. The following day, we are filled with tension. The villagers could sense that something is wrong. True, they could not explain it. Strange things begin to happen. Animals disappear from the farm. Crops begin to wither. And once a clear river now turned red and a muddy sand. It was as if it is the earth himself. It was as tough as the earth himself. It was as tough as the earth itself was angry with them. Amina knew the time had come. The darkness that had been before and behold was upon them, and she would have to face it. She gathered the village elders and explained the situation. Together, they made a preparation to control the evil that threatened their home and their community. With the guidance of the spiritual husband, Amina led the villagers into the heart of the forest, where the true battle between light and darkness would take place. It was there that she would face the greatest challenges, yet one that would test her spirit and strengthen her and resolve the problem. This is the end of our story. Please watch out for part 2. Like and share. Thank you.